So Ram just said something that spells disaster for our economy. So this Ram truck right here, this thing is $91,000. And guess what? They got rows of these things. And the situation's getting so bad that they've had to cut their guidance for over the next year.
It certainly has been a rough time for Stellantis as the automaker reports revenues plunging.
And now it's their workers that are going to start getting cut.
Stellantis has announced that it will be offering buyouts.
Stellantis is offering 60% of their U.S. workforce a buyout right now.
Now, I spoke to union leadership off camera who says they believe these buyouts are on the low side.
Automotive experts believe that it's a cost-cutting move to reduce the workforce.
So I'm actually going to show you my notes for this video because this is the most important thing that I want to say in this whole video. If you don't catch anything else, you need to hear this. So check this out right here. This truck is $91,000. This truck right here. So I threw this into this calculator, and you're going to end up paying, if your loan term is 84 months at a 7% interest rate, and let's say you put $5,000 down, but as we know, most people, they don't even have $5,000 to put down, but we're going to give this customer the benefit of the doubt. Then we're in North Carolina, your monthly payment is going to end up being $1,375, and you end up paying a total amount of $120,000 for that truck. This is the situation that we're in. And this truck right here, this is being sold to a middle class person. And keep in mind, so the lower class, they're coming to me. They're buying cars that are $5,000 and under. They're not buying this truck, not worried about that. The upper end of the echelon, people who are the top 10, the 5% of income earners, they're probably not buying this truck because when they're going to go buy a vehicle, they're not buying a Ram, they're not buying a Ford, they're not buying a GM, they're buying a luxury car. So that's not one of these customers. This is a middle class truck, maybe middle upper class, but I would assume that because the middle class makes up a majority of the people in America, it probably makes up the majority of the people that are watching this video right here. So you ask yourself, if you're middle class, do you want to pay over $1,300 a month for a truck? So their sales fell by 33% in less than a year. So you now have Stellantis, who their sales fell by 33% in less than a year. Now, this is not an easy feat for a car company, but why would we think this happens? Well, it's all about a change in identity. And really, I mean, what do you know from Stellantis? You know the names Jeep, Dodge, Ram. What are they? Well, in Jeep's case, they are simple, they're rugged, they're affordable. They were the Jeep Wrangler, right? That's what we know and love from the Jeep name. And now what is it? Well, they've shifted it to a luxury brand. You have the Wagoneer. That is $120,000 in a lot of cases. That's not what we know about Jeep, Dodge, and Ram. What do we know about Ram? Well, Ram is, of the big three, they're the cheaper of the trucks. At least I've been doing this in the car market I'm a used car dealer for 14 years, and it's always been that route. And now we're seeing that Ram has increased their prices more than Ford and GM over the last 3 years. And then you have Dodge, which is falling into the more economical end of the bunch of a lot of these automakers. And what do you have coming from them? Well, you have massive price increases, more of the luxury brand kind of movement that the last regime in Stellantis has tried to do. And all of these things, when you're increasing the prices by that much, when you're trying to go a different direction from what your base is, when you're trying to make trucks that are more expensive than your competitors, well, what do you think is going to happen? You're going to have your sales fall by 33% in less than a year. So Jeep, Dodge, Ram, Stellantis over this next year, well, they have actually paused their guidance, their forecasting. And this is no surprise because we have a lot of uncertainty in the market. And it's like they're stacking on issues on top of issues, and even stacking on more issues that they can't control. All of this change in identity, they could have controlled this. A lot of this destruction of sales, they could have controlled this. A lot of the increasing in prices that were way too much where people can't afford anymore, they could have controlled that. But now we have outside elements. We have tariff situation. We have the economy that's weakening even more than a lot of people were thinking it was going to. We have people that are tightening with their money. These are outside elements that Jeep, Dodge, Ram, Stellantis, they can't control that. But in the face of all of this, well, they're coming off of the back end of them raising their prices way too much. Quality down, product direction, that's all been changed in a negative way, in my opinion. And then on the back of that, well, now we got all of these outside elements that they have no control over, and it's only going to make the situation worse for Stellantis going forward. And speaking of these outside elements that they can't control, well, 40 to 45% of their vehicles are actually imported into the US. Now, this is something that they can control. They can't control what the prices are going to be or whatever, that they're going to get taxed for actually bringing the vehicles in, but they can rotate where they're actually making, where they're assembling their vehicles. But here's the problem. Even if they want to eliminate these tariffs, if they want to go around all these tariffs, well, that means bring in a lot of production into the US. Well, then you have US labor that you have to contend with, because a lot of this assembly that they're paying a lot less for in Mexico, well, I mean, you're having to pay tariffs on that, and it might end up being that it's cheaper for them to actually even pay the tariff than it is for them to bring assembly into the US. You think more plants, more money, and then the American workers cost a lot more than the workers that they're paying in Mexico. So it might just be a pain point that they just throw their hands up and be like, you know what? Tariffs are actually the lesser of the two evils, and maybe there's not any certainty that surrounds that, and they can actually plan more for American workers, but they know that they're going to pay more for that. But maybe we get a rollback in tariffs, maybe we get a back and forth, whatever's going to happen with that. It's going to be very uncertain. They're not going to be able to plan. They pull their guidance. We've already seen all of that. And this is the same thing that a lot of other manufacturers are having to deal with. But with Stellantis already having all the problems that they have, and then you add in that almost half of the vehicles that they bring into the US are going to get hit with these tariffs because they're imported. So it's getting worse for Stellantis, and really the company is not the only one who's going to be suffering. It's going to be everyone who is employed by the company. So you have assembly line workers, you have the white collar workers, you have everyone that's behind the scenes, you have HR, all of this. But in the US right now, they have actually offered 60% of their workforce a voluntary buyout, a voluntary layoff. And I can tell you that, let's see, my wife, go back in time. My wife worked a long time ago for a very, very large bank, a bank that was in collapse mode. And what happened is that they would offer these voluntary buyouts, these voluntary layoffs to a lot of these workers, and a lot of them took them. But here's the thing: that was the first phase. What comes next is the mandatory layoffs, and this is what I worry about for a lot of the employees, a lot of the workers for Stellantis, and a lot of them, union workers. And we know what has happened with them fighting with the unions over the last couple years. But you're going to have a situation where, okay, the ones that don't take these voluntary layoffs, these buyouts, then now they're going to be put into a pool where, okay, maybe we don't just offer people, we have to now make them, because we have production that's coming down. We have dealers. This is a dealership this is their used lot. And they have brand new trucks all around me here, and they have another new lot on the other side that's packed full of vehicles. When you have that happening at these dealerships, then dealerships start turning down allocations. Well, if they start turning down allocations, we've already seen it right now. Plants get shut down. Production has to come down. Layoffs start to happen because you can't have workers in a massive corporation like Stellantis that are putting their hands in their pockets and standing around. We gotta put out trucks. But if there's no one to take those trucks, there's already reports of trucks sitting everywhere in Detroit right now with no home, no destination to go to. And if that's the case, well, they can't keep pumping out trucks. If you can't keep pumping out trucks because dealers can't take them, well, people have to lose their jobs. And that's what we're seeing right now. The first stages of mass layoffs is offering massive voluntary buyouts. So I'm actually going to show you my notes for this video, because this is the most important thing that I want to say in this whole video. If you don't catch anything else, you need to hear this, and I'll read it right off my notes here. Oh, and it's flying away. So Ram just said 85% now finance for at least 7 years. And what they said was this about their truck buyers. So think that. Let that just soak into your brain. 85% of Ram's customers, truck buyers, now finance for at least 84 months. This is absolutely ridiculous. And the reason why they said this is because we have an affordability crisis in the truck market. We have trucks. I just went through a lot of them. $91,000 for a truck. That's a middle-class truck, $91,000. So for a middle-class consumer to be able to buy that $91,000 truck, what do they have to do? They have to take an 84-month loan. And even at that 84-month loan, they're being stretched thin. So, I mean, because of all of this, they actually extended their factory warranty on a lot of these trucks. That was the main story that Stellantis thought that there was, but obviously we picked out something a little bit different. Big reason why we're doing that is because people are having to stay in their loans longer, and they have to do that because they're going to be underwater on this thing for a majority of the loan. So Stellantis needs that truck to survive the course of the loan, or they're going to lose consumers. It's just, I mean, I laugh about all this, but this is the state of our economy, where to buy a middle-class truck, and Ram, in my opinion, is number 3 of the big 3 that we have in truck makers. But to buy one of those, you have to take out an 84-month loan on a truck. This is a bad setup. And now you even have other companies that aren't even involved within Stellantis's umbrella or whatever, that are getting hit because of the bad decisions made by Stellantis. You have some of their suppliers that offer them parts to make these trucks. Well, if you're not making the trucks, well, then they don't need parts. If they don't need parts, then the suppliers can't make any money. So you have one of their suppliers that actually went bankrupt because the situation is getting so bad. And it just shows you how the car market works and the ecosystem, and how many people are employed and how many businesses are affected by decisions, dumb decisions that can be made by one company. And then you have multiple companies that suffer because of those poor decisions made by management. This is not a dealership problem. This is not really even a brand problem. This is an upper level management problem with the direction that they were going. And we're seeing it now that, okay, their former CEO's been out for a while, but it takes time. It takes time to actually shift the mentality of a company, to shift the product lines, because you have to redesign, you have to get them produced, you have to get them assembled, you have to do all the testing, it takes years. It takes years for them to come out with products that people actually want to buy if they went a different direction the last couple years. So all of this might be too little too late. And if you have years of downtime where you have all these trucks that are $70,000, $80,000, $90,000 that you can't sell, well, it's going to be a big problem, and a lot of lessons are going to be learned. And it might just be that Jeep, Dodge, and Ram looks completely different in a couple years than what it looks like right now. And it might be in the form of ownership from a different company just because they're not able to make it.